Well, welcome back, everyone. And I won't take up too much time, talking about lunch or anything else. But it is my great pleasure and honor to invite Professor Hyunhee to deliver this plenary lecture. Hyunhee is with the City University of New York, John Jay College, and CUNY Graduate Center. Am I saying that right? Yes, okay. And she's talking on, well, it's up there, so I don't really need to read it. So perhaps I might mention that she has written two very interesting books. One mapping the Chinese and Islamic worlds, I think, and another one on Soju. What she's going to talk about this drink, as well as the technology that goes with it, both published by Cambridge University Press. So I think a very high quality scholarship. And I would like to invite Hyunhee to give a lecture. Hyunhee.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. It's an exceptional honor and pleasure to give a plenary lecture at this conference where I've been gaining so many insights and stimulating insights. So I would like to send my sincere thanks to the organizers and participants for creating such an enriching environment for discussion. Many talks delivered so far emphasize the importance of broadening our scopes and fostering collaboration in science. I believe that more specific non-European case studies are essential for gaining balanced insights and developing a more comprehensive theories and understanding in global field of science. I'm excited to share a topic that offers a glimpse into the fascinating exchange of knowledge across cultures and centuries. So today, I will delve into the historical voice of distillation technology, exemplified through the Korean distilled liquor, Soju. And some of you might be wondering how this topic connects to distillation, or might not be very familiar with Soju itself. But I was in the same position actually, even though I was in grown up in Korea. Soju is a distinctive national spirit of Korea, a pure and colorless distilled liquor similar to vodka. Some of you may be familiar with Korean popular culture, such as K-pop, Korean dramas, and Korean food, with individual taste, of course. Much of this popular culture has a strong connection to Soju. And many famous Korean pop stars, singers have worked as models for Soju brands as you see, and they are spreading its influence. So today, in the 21st century, Soju is considered a global beverage, and I will show how and why. So initially, Soju wasn't to my taste compared to other drinks. So, however, my interest grew as I explored its technological aspects as a distilled spirit, intertwined with rich historical and cultural exchanges. I was invited by my colleague, Dr. Paul Buer and Dr. Ana Valenzuela from Mexico, to participate in a project titled Recovery of Traditional Technology, a comparative study of past and present fermentation and associated distillation technologies in Eurasia and their roots. So they did the project with actually Joseph Needham's monumental work, Science and Civilization in China, about which already our colleagues gave excellent overview and discussion. But that volume, even though it's huge, it didn't include Korean Soju in its comparative research. And this omission was due to the lack of good studies on Korean Soju and distillation in Western languages. But I quickly also realized that there was also no comprehensive study of Soju in Korea either. So I had to start from scratch, working with the original sources. Unfortunately, starting this project within a broader comparative collaborative framework allowed me to approach it with a global scale question. So this approach was key to tracing the historical roots of Soju and uncovering deeper significance in the broader history of distillation. Today, I invite you to join me on a journey that traces Soju's pre-modern Eurasian roots through the Mongol era and explores its development and impact on contemporary global practices. Let's start with the distillation technology used to make this distilled liquor. So distillation technology, a pivotal development in human history, has played a crucial role far beyond its initial practical application. Originally devised for medicinal and agricultural purposes, distillation and the distilled liquors it produced traveled across continents and cultures. It deeply influenced the socio-economic and cultural landscape, including Korea, which was at the eastern edge of medieval Eurasian network. Korea is here. So this phenomenon shows that the combined importance of knowledge and material transfers. It's a prime example of global knowledge transfer where ideas and practices were not just adapted, but adapted, reshaped, and enriched through interaction with local knowledge systems and environments. Many studies have focused on the transfer process of knowledge and goods, but the case of distilled liquors and soju shows that localization is crucial too, and can serve as a new point for further transfer of knowledge. The origins of distillation are shrouded in the myth of early civilization, making it a fascinating subject to explore. So unlike the production of fermented alcohols like wine and beer, which could be observed and imitated from nature, distilled liquor production requires the development of a chemical technology called distillation. Distillation is a technique used to separate alcohol from water and other contents by boiling and condensing, or even freezing in northern Eurasia. This process required calculating the boiling points of various ingredients and developing a distilling apparatus known as the still. For example, this still is used for French cognac, produced only in cognac farms. And here is the cross-sectional view of the still. The rising vapor, after boiling, is condensed by the water, and the resulting liquid of higher alcohol content is led into this separate receiving pot. Thanks to experts like Hyunhee, author of the Science and Civilization in China, we know that people in Asia also developed steel, different from European hot steel, much earlier, Asian steel and European ones. And so before mass-produced industrial soju of the 20th century, Koreans also made soju by distilling fermented rice wine using traditional Korean distillation apparatus called soju gori. So this is quite similar to some of the traditional spirits used in other parts of Eurasia. And the Joseph Mitchell categorized them as Asian type steel, different from European type steel. So the origin of distilled liquors for widespread consumption have sparked heated debate in world history. So it was so complicated that really I had a great headache when I started on this. And I explored their roots and transferred by examining existing theories to provide an updated perspective. So recently, scholars have suggested that distillation may have been invented independently in the ancient Near East, China, and India. While several societies developed distillation in ancient times, they primarily used it for purposes like distilling herbal alcohol, perfume, or mercury, rather than for making drinking liquor. interestingly, documents about distilled liquor began to start during the Mongol period, 13th and 14th century, starting with China and Korea. Let me introduce the earliest Chinese document that show the rapid spread of distilled liquor, Soju or Soju, in Korean and Arab, across Eurasia during the period. So the first explicit descriptions of distilled liquor as arak and how to make it are from Chinese sources in the 14th century. The earliest clear evidence of alcohol distillation comes from the official dietary manual for the Mongol court in China, in Shanzhongyao, in proper and in essential things for the emperor's food and drink, presented in 1330, and it reads, Arabic liquor is sweetish in flavor and piquant. It is very heating and makes a great poison. It is good for dispersing sheer hard of accumulation. It removes cold cheese. Good wine is distilled to procure a dew. This is the Araji. So this passage describes a brandy made by accumulating drops of high alcohol liquor during distillation. So the term for Arab in Chinese, Araji, in Mongolian Araji, reflects its Turkic origin. And various transliterations of Arab appear in Chinese and Korean sources. So Araji in Alichi, Yanraji in Arabi in Korean. So and another later 14th century Chinese source, Jutabiong Shui Chenchu Jia, essential things for living at home, introduces Arab as Alichi and explains it alongside the native Chinese spirit Xiaozhou. In the section methods of making southern barbarian Xiaozhou, it says the barbarian name is Alichi, or Arab. As for an ingredient, it doesn't matter if it's sour or sweet, insipid or thin. Any liquor lacking a proper flavor will do. Inside the pot, set the liquor to boil. Its vapor will rise into the empty pot. Then inside the bamboo tube of the empty pot, you must siphon off what has filled the empty pot. So one can obtain 1/3 good liquor. So you can use this method to liquors decocted during the winter, all of them. So this is what is described. So it specifically describes how any low quality liquor could be boiled with vapor siphoned off and 1/3 good liquor obtained. So from this reference, we know two things. First, by the 14th century, the Chinese were already consuming Xiaozhou. Something like native Chinese spirit, and there are not many documentations about it. And second, they began to use a new distillation method imported through maritime route to make a new type of distilled liquor called burnt liquor of southern barbarians, originally named Arab. So far, I have shared the first excellent documentation of distilled liquors from the Mongol period, Chinese sources, earlier than European ones. So we see that two kinds of distilled Xiaozhou and Arab began to be consumed throughout China in the 14th century during the Mongol period. So let's investigate further to understand exactly what they were. So the Chinese Xiaozhou, later known as Baijiu, anyone can find? So it's a grain-based spirit developed from Chinese distillation technology. Its origins as a distilled liquor are debated, but literary and archaeological evidence suggests Xiaozhou appeared in 11th century literature and flourished after the Mongol period in the 13th and 14th century. What is Arab? Some of you may know Arab as a high alcohol distilled spirit, popular in the Middle East, Central Asia, and the Mediterranean. Intriguingly, these Mongol Chinese texts provide the first explicit documentation of Arab distilled liquor, as I showed. The Chinese text distinguishes Arab's foreign distillation method from the Chinese Xiaozhou. So scholars agree that Arab comes from the Arab word, Arab, meaning sweat or perspiration, essential drugs created by vapor during distillation. The Medieval Eastern world developed distillation by inheriting technology from ancient Greece. The Greek inventors created a device called ambics, which Muslim scholars adapted to develop indeed a specialized device for distilling rose water. This technology transferred to Europe and staying in the 12th century, becoming known as alembic. I believe many of you are familiar with this device. Some of you may be familiar with RI, yeah, it's similar to Soju and Soju, but it's popular in Middle East and Asia and Mediterranean region. Is there a direct relation between these spirits? Why there has been no comprehensive study specifically examining the relation between Soju and modern art trends? Their similarities are not immediately apparent due to the differences between regions. So art in Western Asia is made with fruit wines, whereas traditional Chinese Soju and Korean Soju are made from fermented grains like Soju and rice. And another distilled liquor with a similar name, Arki, developed in modern Mongolia and Central Asia. Particularly, Arki, light milk liquor, is made from fermented cows and mare's milk. But the similarities in name and other features suggest evidence of cross-cultural exchanges or a common origin that makes comparisons worthwhile. And really, distilled liquor, they share the common thing, and distilled liquor, they doesn't matter what ingredient they use. So by investigating their origins in relevant medieval sources, I was able to demonstrate possible historical relationships between different varieties of this distilled liquor. So why there is no clear documentation of distilled alcohol in the Middle Eastern literature, probably because of religious ban. Some studies show that many Muslims, some Iranians enjoy alcoholic beverages to some degree. And non-Muslim ethnic groups in the Middle East without such a prohibition likely distilled fermented wine to create arak. And this practice could have spread gradually, especially among those without extensive documentation. So distilled alcohol has significant preservation advantages useful for medieval Middle Eastern soldiers and merchants trading long distances. So a crossover transfer scenario is that Arab was brought to China via the South Sea, the Indian Ocean route. Frequented by merchants from the West and Southeast Asia during the Tang and Song period, in the medieval period when China's foreign trade flourished. In China, this Arab mixed with Chinese Xiaoyu, leading to the Chinese to refer to it as burnt liquor of the southern barbarians, acknowledging foreign origin. That's really why the liquor began to rise during the Mongol period. So actually, Joseph Needham earlier mentioned, it really has really detailed analysis of technology, but actually it needs more study on the historical context. And this will discuss Mongol period. And actually, the new scholarship is really flourishing about the Mongol period cultural context. Mongol Empire connecting the large part of Asia and affected Europe. So how like Xiaoju and Arak spread rapidly by the Mongols. So by the time the name Arak appeared regularly in Chinese writing, China had been under Mongol rule for about a century. The Mongol rulers recruited various foreigners, including Uyghurs, Turks, Iranians, Arab, to their court. Distilled liquor with an Arabic roots named circulating through elite circles. Additionally, the Mongols were fascinated by the traditional Chinese alcohol culture, including Xiaoju. And we also have archaeological excavation with distillery sites provide solid evidence of large-scale distilled beverage industry in China and ranked by the UNESCO World Heritage Top 10 list. So So this, before that, there was very, like, a very small archaeological excavation of kind of here, but it's really from the Mongol period. We see this mass production of distilled liquor. And so this highlights the crucial role the Mongols played in spreading distilled spirits across China and Eurasia, including Korea. The nomadic people, did I show this? So the nomadic people like the Mongols had a unique making culture. Historically, they did not engage in cultivation, but consumed the fermented milk drinks with the kumis and ayra. Mongols considered alcoholic beverages like kumis and ayra as vital to their royal rituals, feasts, and festivals like Kuritai that decided major issues and elected new rulers like Genghis Khan that was elected. And it had been so since the formation of their empire. So writers who observed the trade of the Mongols during their age of empire, including William of Brunswick and Marco Polo. However, transporting kumis during military campaigns posed problems since it spoiled quickly. To preserve it, the Mongols likely distilled kumis. Although there is no direct evidence that Mongols developed distillation technology, they were skilled at utilizing the expertise of various people under their rule. They likely adopted the existing distillation methods and skills from the Chinese and foreigners. This led to the popularity of Chinese and foreign distilled liquor, arak, Soju, and arak in China during the Mongol period. Also, the Mongols drank almost any kind of hard alcohol. Among them was fine good wine. And an eyewitness account of the spirit and distillation practices of the Volga Kalmuk and the Mongols, written by the late 18th century German zoologist and botanist Peter Harras, shows that they used to distill iron or hummus. Coming back to the Mongol Empire, the transfer of distillation and distilled liquor show that the Mongols were not just conquerors but facilitators of cross-cultural exchange. Their vast empire acted as a grand corridor of commerce and knowledge, merging technologies like certain forms of distillation from the Eastern world into East Asia. So during this era, distillation significantly impacted the production of alcoholic beverages, spreading techniques across their domains and profoundly influencing local traditions. One captivating example is Soju, which originated from the interaction with Middle Eastern and East Asian cooling practices. The development of distillation method from the Mongol era reached Korea quickly. So you see, the Soju became deeply embedded in social and cultural fabric in Korea. While distilled liquors rose throughout Eurasia, including Iran and Tibet, simultaneously, conflict sources are scarce. But from really this time on, we began to see a lot of references to the distilled liquor. So the transport of spirits from Mongol Empire to Korea serves as a well-documented case illustrating the spread of spirits at that time. Soju's rise from a regional specialty to a global phenomenon encapsulates the essence of distillation's journey and highlights how technological transfer and adaptation are living dialogues shaping our world. So again, Joseph Williams study compares different types of skills, dividing them into Mongolian and Chinese style. So interestingly, earlier evidence for Mongol type skill exists also in Korea from documentary sources, and I will talk about it shortly. So now let's explore the transmission of distillation techniques to Korea and their adaptation within the local context. The transmission of distillation technology to Korea was facilitated by the close ties between the Korean Peninsula and the Mongol Empire. As more studies have shed new light on the histories of the Mongol Empire, the concurrent epoch in Korean history, namely the Goryeo dynasty, deserves an equivalently significant reevaluation. the Latin name Korea is from this dynasty. The Korean peninsula was ruled by the Korean dynasty time, and so during the late Korean dynasty, late period, it's it was invaded by the Mongols, like many other societies in Eurasia. But the Mongols did not directly rule Korea, but made it as a vassal and son-in-law state. So this status facilitated the exchange of goods and ideas, including distillation technology. So during the period, the knowledge and techniques of distillation were introduced to Korea and adapted to local traditions. Korean scholars and artisans exposed to Mongol Chinese distillation methods began experimenting with local ingredients like rice and other grains like barley to produce their own distilled liquors. So this adaptation was crucial in developing Soju, allowing Koreans to refine the technology to suit their local resources and taste. So understanding this context involves looking at the history of alcoholic drinks in Korea. Like many other societies, Korea's ancient history, especially its cultural history, lacks extensive documentation. But historical sources such as myths and legends provide insight into the development of alcoholic drinks. Ancient Korean alcoholic beverages were divided into two classes, those consumed by nobles and those consumed by ordinary people. High-grade liquors were made using special compression brewing methods like turbid strained wine. Strained wine similar to Caviar we explain later. And while turbid and unstrained liquor were consumed by farmers and travelers, similar to modern day makgeolli is getting popular too as a kind of Korean liquor alcoholic drink. So before the arrival of distilled spirits like Soju, Korean alcoholic drinks had a weaker taste and lower alcohol content. All these actions and documents verify the existence of specific spirits like Soju and its cousin art dates back to the 14th century, suggesting that the distilled liquors were introduced during the close time with the Mongols after its invasion. So as the Mongols occupied Korea in the course of their military campaign, they proudly expanded with skills and took some of them to Korea to serve a variety of military, diplomatic, commercial, and societal purposes. The spread of distilled liquors in Korea is evidenced by several historical records. For example, the official history of Korea mentions so explicitly. The one passage describes a general named Jin, known for his excessive consumption of soju, leading his men to be called like the Soju group. And another passage from 1375 indicates that soju was popular enough to warrant a prohibition edict to curb its consumption, suggesting that it had become a luxurious item alongside like goods like silk and jade. And Isaac, a prominent neo-Confucian scholar, provides evidence of distillation in Korea. In his poem, Isaac describes a distilled liquor called araji, which he encountered through scholarly contact in China, since he studied in Beijing that at the time, and he described it as forming like autumn dewdrops and dripping down, and after drinking half a cup of the liquor, a warm feeling spread to the bone. Yeah, that was how he said when he encountered. The poem is one of the earliest documents confirming the presence of distilled liquors in Korea and highlights the role of cross-cultural exchanges in their interaction. And later sources refer to soju as noju, dewdrop liquor, and the brand name of the biggest soju company from 20th century is Jinro, like true dewdrop. Again, the Mongol Empire. So the Mongol conquest of Korea did not aim to incorporate Korea into the Mongol Empire, but to secure its compliance as a vassal state. This political arrangement allowed Korea to enjoy de facto autonomy while fostering close ties with the Mongol Empire. So this type facilitates cultural exchanges, including the transfer of distillation technology, liquor, and Korean scholars, merchants, and officials who traveled to Vietnam and China were exposed to the cosmopolitan culture of the Mongol Empire and brought back new knowledge and practices, including distillation technology. And the influence of Mongol culture extended beyond distilled alcohol. The introduction of meat-eating culture, for example, marked a significant shift in Korean culinary practices. And Buddhism, the dominant religion during the Korea period, discouraged meat-eating culture spread across the Korean peninsula, reviving hunting practices and increasing livestock farming. So this culinary change likely boosted the consumption of stronger distilled alcohols like soju, which pair well with meat dishes. So the cultural exchange between the Korean China and Korea included not only distillation but also advancement in science, food, and many other things, and also the calendar system. So for example, the Korean adaptation of the Muslim calendar integrated into the Chinese calendar developed under the Mongol dynasty in China, improved Korea's calendar system. And cartographic and geographic knowledge also expanded, exemplified by the creation of famous Gangnido map in 1402, which incorporated Eurasian geographic knowledge acquired during the Mongol era. And you can see the Africa and very upright position. And now, let me briefly introduce the story of Soju in Korea during the Joseon period. The Korea's last pre-modern climate is long, it's 5 centuries by put them together. So it's characterized by Soju's localization in terms of methods and culture. This period is significant for the history of Soju because the spirit spread rapidly throughout Korea, becoming an important Korean alcohol alongside other beverages consumed since antiquity. So during the Joseon era, various systems, ideas, and cultures developed, many inherited from late Korea period, like Mongol period, including Soju. So upon its arrival in Korean society, Soju began to exert a range of effects. So according to official annals, the royal court used it for both domestic and international gift giving and medical purposes. So to meet growing demand, the court established a bureau to distill soju and it required households to submit soju as tribute, promoting its spread to the peninsula and its ordinary households. This raised the importance of soju in the homebrew culture of each household, known as Hayangju in Korean. So this contrast with China, where policies promote large-scale industrial distilleries. In Korea, soju evolved, leading to documentation in various sources, including cookbooks with soju recipes and medical books with guides for its medical application. So this share of Korean alcohol consumption gradually increased, and it became a substitute for ancestor worship during the summer when fermented wines like Soju spoiled quickly. So on Jeju Island, where the humid environment challenges the preservation of fermented beverages, soju gradually developed into a main alcohol drink for making medicine or ancestral rites. So as for distillation technology transfer, the introduction of different Mongolian style steel by the Mongols spread quickly across Korea. Numerous sources from the Joseon period provide more evidence for this technology transfer. The sources from this period include the first type of late 17th century diary by Yi Jihang, who distilled seawater as with making soju, provides insight into this technique. He described how he put seawater in a pot like this, and closed the pot lid upside down, and received only half a bowl of distilled water, which dropped from the lead of the path. Yeah, and indeed, it takes the train, not 30. That's why we drive, we survive. So over time, the tools may slowly evolve with the original simple form, morphing into more complicated still called body. Official records noted whenever soju consumption grew large enough to impact the economy, particularly due to the use of rice, Korea's staple ingredient. The government issued prohibitions against alcoholic drinks, particularly soju, during droughts. And official documents also and medical books reported side effects from excessive soju consumption. They drink a lot and suddenly die. And so while documentary evidence shows an ongoing process of soju localization within Korea during the Joseon period 5th century, it also indicates interactions with other societies in soju. It was regularly transported as official gifts or trade goods to the courts of the Ming and Qing dynasties in Korea, in China, sorry, and Tokugawa shogunate in Japan, the kingdom of Ryukyu on Okinawa. As Europeans began expanding into Asian waters, Korea gradually opened the door, and Europeans observed heavy drinking, especially of strong alcohol, most likely soju. So this chosen stage of history paved the way for a major transformation in the 20th century when it became Korea's national drink. So the transformation of soju during the 20th century laid the foundation for its flourishing in 21st century. So this transformation was driven by significant changes, including the rise of modern science, industrialization, colonialism, and globalization. So I will discuss this evolution in three stages briefly. So the first stage is the modernization of the soju distillation industry during Korea's colonial rule by Imperial Japan from 1910 to 1945. So during this period, traditional soju based on Joseon-era distillation methods and recipes declined. The Japanese companies introduced a modern industrial form of soju using continuous fields for mass production at low cost in large factories. So this method was developed in Europe in 18th century and later introduced to Japan first in later 19th century, and this replaced the traditional soju apparatus. So here is a photo of industrial soju factory in Jeju in 1943 and another standard distilling columns in Korea in recent years. So the second transformation occurred amidst Korea's rapid economic development and state building between independence in 1945 and its emergence as a developed nation in the late 20th century. So during the period, Koreans faced major challenges, including Korean War in the early 1950s, rapid modernization and industrialization led by the Korean government, followed by a determined democratization movement. The Korean government supported factory manufactured industrial soju made from potatoes instead of rice due to grain shortage. So only so these are industrial soju. Only in the 1980s, the government began to promote traditionally distilled soju as an national food liquor, part of its policy of promoting national liquor. And at the time, they had beach sports games like 88 Olympics and 86 Asian Games like the Paris Olympics. They wanted to really promote some Korean culture, but they realized they actually really they didn't promote, they declined. So they artificially revived this. And so this encouraged revival of traditional soju and in the third and most recent stage, from the late 20th century to the early 21st century, a globalizing economy created unprecedented connections between soju producers and virtually each part of the world. So this presents a radical form of cross-cultural exchange beyond Korean culture. Along with the rapid industrial development of major companies during the recent Korean wave in the last 2 decades, soju producers began to export mass-produced industrial soju to other countries, making it a global brand. So, medium-sized soju factory in Korea produces 600 bottles of soju per minute. I took this photo when I visited the company in the factory. And Korean companies also successfully incorporated foreign spirits, brews and mixing culture, popularizing new ways of drinking soju mixed with beer or in cocktails. And at the same time, the Korean makers boldly adopted Korean spirit, leading to innovations in soju that could compete in Korea and abroad. So this transformation over the past century has catalyzed the development of today's soju as a new global brand. So let me point out that the soju that made Korean soju famous globally in the 21st century is this mass-produced industrial soju. It has less alcohol, around like 20%, compared to the traditional soju brands and many other spirits with more than 45% alcohol. The soju made of rice in a traditional distillation way has a smoother taste than industrial soju. But industrial soju factories, they also have made efforts to improve the taste as well. So despite these changes, the core identity of soju as a uniquely Korean spirit persisted. The modern era has seen a resurgence of interest in traditional soju, and some of the new traditional distilled soju like this, we can buy them at least in the supermarket in the US, but in also in other countries too. And I was in an interview for people about new brand soju launched by Korean pop singer J Park. So this revival is driven by a growing appreciation for soju's cultural heritage and a desire to preserve traditional qualities amid globalization. So today, soju stands as a testament to the dynamic process of cultural exchange and localization. It exemplifies how a technology, once transferred, can be continually developed, and this defines the local context and how these localized innovations can in turn be shared with the wider world. So just journey from the steppes of Mongolia and the distilleries of the Middle East to the homes and bars of modern Korea and beyond underscores the interconnectedness of our global heritage. So instead of stopping at the case of Korea, I will examine two cases that stimulate discussion. So transfer of in liquors in a global context. The case of Soju in Japan and the case of tequila in Mexico. So in Japan, Soju evolution began with the introduction of fermented cider from Korea and also China, and developed further with influences from Chinese and Korean distilled liquor during the early modern period. So as I mentioned earlier, official records of the Joseon Port mention many bottles of soju sent as gifts to Japan, suggesting a transfer of distillation technology. The Ryukyu Islands and Kyushu became centers for shochu production, incorporating local ingredients like sweet potatoes. So yeah, these. And so the Japanese also adapted European industrial distillation technology before Korea, and leading to the development of modern shochu. And then in Mexico too, the distillation of agave-based spirits like tequila began with the Spanish colonization, introduced distillation technique. But there are debates too, and there are some scholars discuss the possible origin of distillation also in Mexico too. And also some scholars suggest that very convincingly that Asian type style spirits were transferred to Mexico via Manila galleon trade, linking the Philippines and Mexico in like early modern period. So, and Yeah, recent research from my colleagues point to similarities between East Asian spirits and those found in Mexico, suggesting a possible influence. And Mexican tequila and mezcal evolved from these early distillation practices, becoming globally recognized spirits. So these examples highlight that the history of soju is part of a broader pattern of knowledge exchange and adaptation in the global journey of other spirits, offering deeper insight into the theme of circulating knowledge. Another topic that needs further study is the possible set of connections between the rise and popularity of vodka, Russian vodka, and the trajectory of the Mongols 2 century rule in Russia. And my colleague is actually working on doing his PhD in University in Netherlands. So these all suggest the benefits that further investigation would bring to advancing an understanding of the development of distilled liquors in global history. So now I have a few more minutes, I think. So let me quickly wrap up the talk with the most important key points regarding circulating knowledge, considering technological transference and societal impact. The history of Soju illustrates the broader process of cultural and technological exchange that have shaped human history. These exchanges are dynamic interactions that lead to continuous innovation and modification. And Soju's journey from pre-modern Eurasia to a global spirit is a testament to this process. The diffusion of distillation technology across pre-modern Eurasia was a profound cultural and economic transformation. So initially developed for alchemical and medicinal purposes, distillation later produced spirits, altering social and economic landscapes. It's not just about creating spirits. It's about preserving food and medicine, rituals, and celebrations. So this showcases our relentless pursuit to refine and enhance our lives. Distillation and its end product illustrate how knowledge and material transfer can enrich culture worldwide. And so again, the Mongol Empire trade network facilitated the rapid spread of distillation techniques from the Middle East to Asia, merging Middle Eastern Arab and Chinese Soju, influenced Soju's development in Korea. And so, where the liquor is very popular, the history of distillation itself really needs more further study. And people studying that, and many people, scholars agree that there hasn't been enough study. But really, I was able to bring this Asian case that actually brings like a key point in this puzzle. So you see, like all the way, even in pre-modern period, also this is liquor was called Arab in various translations. So, this spirit became integral to social ritual celebrations, religious practices, and so in Korea, so to symbolize hospitality and communal bonding. This liquor could be preserved longer, significant advantage in the pre-modern period without refrigerators. So distillation also played a crucial role in producing medicinal distillates and tinctures. Soju has been used in social, medicinal, spiritual practices, and even to produce hand sanitizer during the COVID pandemic. Actually, they donate alcohol. Modern life would be incomparably different without such alcohol-based medicine. So again, as we transition from Soju's historical trajectory to contemporary significance, we see how it has evolved into globally recognized commodity. So this journey from a regional specialty to a global phenomenon is a remarkable story of cultural adaptation and marketing power. The global popularity of K-pop, Korean dramas, and cuisine has played a pivotal role in introducing soju to international markets. Soju appeals lies in the versatility and approachable flavor profile, and this fruit soju became really popular. And today, soju is one of the best-selling spirits in the world. There's a single brand is the most sold spirit. Its global reach is evident in liquor stores, bars, and restaurants, and across North America, Europe, and Asia. So yeah, I think it's also in this is in New Jersey, where I live, and then this is in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. Soju here, and then yeah, and then the movement of distillation techniques also further enrich local traditions and foster a global community of distillers who share knowledge and innovate collaboratively. So this journey from Korea to the global market illustrates its ongoing exchange. The adoption of modern distillation technology and marketing strategies has allowed Soju to gain even international recall. One of my colleagues got the gold medal in the international fair. Conclusion, yeah. So reflecting on the journey of Soju and other distilled spirits, it's clear that globalization and cultural exchange are not new phenomena. They are rooted in centuries of interaction, innovation, and adaptation. The story of Soju from its ancient origins to its contemporary global presence is a powerful reminder of the value of preserving and nurturing these connections. It highlights the importance of understanding and appreciating the diverse influences that contribute to our global cultural landscape. So understanding historical knowledge transfer is crucial for grasping contemporary global interconnections. The spread of distillation technology across Eurasia and subsequent localization in Korea highlight the interactive nature of these exchanges. By examining the global distribution and adaptation of distilled spirits, we gain a deeper understanding of our world's interconnectedness and our cultural and technological exchanges continue to shape our shared heritage. Thank you. Bye.